Hello and welcome back to the Peach State Prime Transformers channel. I'm Warren, and today we have a very fun video. At least I think it's fun, and hopefully you will too. As we all know, in many things in life and in fandoms and all that, there's always these rivals that occur. You know, you got stuff like Star Trek versus Star Wars, Pokemon versus Yu-Gi-Oh! And of course, back in the 80s, it was Transformers versus GoBots. And kind of in the spirit of that today, I got two figures we're going to kind of compare and contrast, one from both lines. The first one is going to be Scooter from the GoBots. And then the other one is going to be Bumblebee from, of course, the Transformers. Now, the reason why I'm choosing these two figures to go head to head in this epic, I don't want to call it a struggle, but this epic debate that's just always been going on ever since these two lines came out, is these characters actually fulfill, you know, in their respective media, basically the cartoons, they very much fulfill the same role. They're kind of that gateway character, that the little brother of the group. That usually, you know, most of the human characters or human character, depending on the situation, you know, usually pals around with, kind of the discovery character that the audience gets to see, you know, sometimes a water view of the two respective universes through. And, of course, that definitely happened with Transformers, even outside of the original show with Bumblebee, with the live-action movies that came out. No live-action GoBots movies. I'm not expecting them. But anyways, you know, obviously I do have a little bit of a bias here. It is Peach State Prime Transformers. But I still figured this would be good because GoBots have become kind of cousins to the Transformers, with Hasbro, of course, owning Tonka, who produced the GoBots, and by default, the GoBots themselves now, even homaging them into repaints and maybe even some retools of existing Transformers molds that are released out there, newer ones. But anyways, we're going to, again, look at both of these, see how they compare, and see if there's a clear winner who's the best little brother transforming robot, specifically when it comes to toys. Not going to really evaluate the media, but again, they have similar personalities in a way. Alright, so to start out with, we have Scooter and Bumblebee side by side, and you know, you can tell if you look at their... Wait a minute, okay, hold on, just time out. One of these two things is not like the other. And we do need to make this fair, as much as, you know, I am a Transformers fan. This Bumblebee toy is the reissue that came out with the cartoon accurate head, updated paint job with those tail lights, and just a fresher, you know, a fresher toy all the way around, whereas Scooter back there, there we go, is very much the original GoBots toy. So this isn't fair. And you know what? I also think that yellow pops maybe a little too much compared to the red and black of Scooter. So let's make this a little bit more fair, shall we? All right, that's better. So to make this more fair, we are going to compare Scooter to the red version of the original Bumblebee toy. And yes, this one does have the toy accurate head. This is an original that came out in the 80s. And so let's take a look. First thing, as I was starting to say before I stopped myself, is when you compare the height of these two, Scooter is a bit bigger. Let me rephrase that. Scooter is a bit taller. I feel that Bumblebee is kind of equal here, though, in mass. He is a bit wider, a bit bulkier. But, you know, they do scale pretty well together. They're about the same size. What doesn't make sense, and again, two different toy lines. You know, Bumblebee here turns into a, you know, a Volkswagen Beetle, a car. Scooter turns into a scooter, basically a vintage Vespa type vehicle. So you know, if these are both in the same toy line, I would call foul. However, a lot of the G1 mini cars for Transformers, you know, they don't really scale for what they turn into. For instance, Power Glide, Warpath, Sea Spray, you know, would all probably be much larger than a Volkswagen Bug. But, you know, so scale be darned there. But if we take a look at these, okay, so how did Tonka and Hasbro do with their products? So, starting with Scooter, you do see, again, he is a fairly, you know, fairly tall figure for, you know, his size class, as were most GoBots, you know, of this scale. You know, you have some stickers here. Again, it's old. They're starting to wear off. You got some black highlighting, the mostly red body here. The head sculpt is not bad. Of course, this is the original toy. You know, Hanna-Barbera did their thing with the animated show. I will say that likeness isn't too far off from the show. I mean, the nose is all wrong, but, I mean, it works. You know, this is Scooter. The legs here are metal, which is always, you know, a nice thing from those old 80s robot toys. And you got some variation of color here with these, I guess they're blasters or almost smokestacks. Yeah, I don't know what those are in this. I guess they're blasters, which we'll see in the alt mode here in just a little bit. The hands, obviously these become the handlebars when he's transformed. But you can see the hands is molded in there. You know, kind of distinct, you know that they're supposed to be hands, and he's just kind of giving you a thumbs up here. So, you know, hey, it's stuck. So, yeah. Anyways, so that's Scooter. Again, I do like how the eyes are painted yellow. I don't believe that matched the show, but, you know, again, not bad for a, you know, a toy of this scale, and, you know, somewhat show accurate. Then we take a look at Bumblebee here, and again, we're looking mainly at the toy. Again, you know, traditional Bumblebee, all the red would be, yellow, and that's about the only difference. Everything else, would be black or silver. You know, one thing I know that has always bugged everybody, well, bugged people like me, is that, you know, Bumblebee's face in the animated show looked nothing like this, this toy that came out in the 80s. So that was always kind of a bummer. You know, you do have, of course, you know, his chest was always the, you know, the window or cab portion of the Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle. Turn around here, this always kind of represented a spare tire. I know in a lot of the media and in a lot of people's minds, it does look like it. And of course, this represents kind of where his head comes down. It does kind of represent the Penny Racer version of a Volkswagen Beetle toy. You know, you have the feet here, which, you know, they don't really separate at all, but, you know, you do have two individual feet, two individual legs. The hands are here, but maybe not as distinct as they are on Scooter. You got little fingers. It's hard to pick it up on this camera. But you got little fingers, you know, indented there. You know, so a nifty little figure. Again, mini car scale. I believe these both would have been roughly about the same price when they first came out. So, you know, they're both kind of nifty in their own ways. However, Scooter's winning for standing up right now. There, maybe if I had that stretched out more. I don't know. It might be a tell there. Anyways, let's take a look at the alt modes. So Scooter here, you just flip this up. Both of these transformations are fairly simple. You're going to flip this torso section up. Then, you know, you're going to plug in the handlebars. There's this little piece here that just tabs in the front. And I am trying to be careful because, again, these are pretty old toys at this point. All right, then the legs here. Okay, so it does, the figure also does pull apart a little. All right, and these just fold straight up, and you can go down. Keep that pulled apart there. You need to push the center part back a little. Okay. And we have Scooter's little, again, Scooter, Vespa mode, whatever you want to call it. Actually does a very good job pulling it off and is very accurate to the show. Of course, in the show, you had Scooter's face showing up here, which I never liked. But, you know, from a toy perspective, it is a rather unique, I mean, again, it's old. The joints aren't necessarily holding as much. But it's a nifty little toy. I mean, I don't think we ever got a Transformer outside of maybe a Minicon that had an alt mode like this. But I think it's cool. You could have maybe another figure with skinny legs driving him. But, and again, these, I guess, would be blasters here. Those are what were next to his head. But, again, not a bad little attempt for, you know, GoBots / Tonka. And, of course, you know, we've seen this transformation not only in other toys, but on this channel before. You push the head in for Bumblebee, push the legs in. You push the legs out and you shake them all up. Just kidding. And then we push the arms in. Careful. Okay. And then we got our little, cute little Penny Racer Volkswagen Beetle. And, you know, it's not bad. You know, again, whether it's red or yellow, this really does, you know, pull it off rather well. You got the rubber tires here. Not really any metal that I recall or see right now. You know, one little detail I like is you got this one exhaust pipe here. So we'll put that out next to Scooter here. There we go. Much better. Okay. So I think, you know, we have two very similar characters and two very simple toys, especially for their time, that really, you know, pulled it off. It was a great entry point, you know, for new people, new fans, new kids. Not just because, you know, that was kind of a gateway character on their respective shows, but the toys were cheaper. So it was a very easy thing to have your mom or dad maybe pick one of these up for you instead of, let's say, you know, a giant Optimus Prime or one of the Super GoBots or one of the GoBot bases, something like that. So, you know, I think they both pull the alt modes off very well. And frankly, if you know, were untrained, if you were not aware of GoBots or Transformers, and you saw this sitting on a shelf or this, you might think it's some sort of Hot Wheel. So that they both do a good job of hiding their robot components. So again, I think that they're very good. Definitely better for Scooter. I think he's one of the better original GoBot toys. I'd say he's better than Psykill. I know that that's, you know, heresy to some people, but maybe we'll do that comparison in another video. But I just, the fact you can't see Scooter's head or really any of his main body parts that are discernible. I think that pulls it off. And again, the same goes for Bumblebee. You know, again, the joints are a little loose on these because they're so old, but again, it's nice and clean all the way around. Now, before we kind of wrap up here, I do want to call out that I may have had Scooter's arms mistransformed in the beginning, you know, joking around about that thumbs up. You can also have them turn this way, which I think looks better in this mode. I was recently reunited with this figure, so it's been a while since I've handled it. So, so there's that. So, which one's better? G1 Bumblebee in red or yellow, or Scooter, representing, again, the GoBots? You know, it's really hard to say. I went into this video saying, oh yeah, I'm going to show how Bumblebee was so far superior to the Scooter toy. And again, we're just talking about toys here. Characters, yeah, Bumblebee blows Scooter out of the water. But as far as toys here, I mean, Scooter is a nifty little GoBot. So I don't know. But yet I'm also not willing to say it's a tie either. But I don't know. There's more, because I do like, again, I'm going to bring him up, the detail on that face, you know, show accurate or not for either one of these guys. I will say I like the face better on Scooter. Just more detail, and, you know, you don't have the floating head on a background like you do for Bumblebee. You know, it's actually connected to his body. You know, as far as, you know, build quality, you know, you got rubber tires on Bumblebee. You got some metal on Scooter. I like metal in, you know, old toys. But the rubber tires are also nice. So that's just about a draw. Again, convincibility of the alt mode. Again, kind of a draw. I don't know. I don't know if I could call this one myself. So what I'd like to do is, number one, say that I think both toys are great. And, you know, if you have some GoBots in your collection, I'd recommend picking up Scooter. If you're a Transformers fan, you definitely need to have some flavor of Bumblebee in your collection, whether it be a reissue like I have here, or one of the original offerings of Bumblebee, again, red or yellow. Again, this is not Cliff Jumper. Cliff Jumper had a different molded head and different front end for the vehicle. This is purely a red Bumblebee. It was sold as a red Bumblebee. You know, it was on the card art, showed a yellow Bumblebee, but the toy was red. But, you know, so, and again, whether it's one of these or one of the keychain ones, I think it's worth adding to your collection as well. But as far as which one's better, leave a comment in the comment section. You know, you could just put, you know, you can leave any comments you want about either figure. But if you simply just want to vote and tell me who you think was better, you know, just simply put Scooter or Bumblebee. And, you know, we'll see how that turns out. I'm really curious myself. And, you know, maybe in some future installment, you know, if I ever compare GoBots and Transformers again, maybe we'll make this an ongoing thing. Because I have a few more GoBots that are worth showing. Not a ton, but, you know, maybe we could review those results together sometime. But, again, I really want to see your thoughts on this, and which is the superior toy. Again, we're not talking character. We're talking toys exclusively here. Outside of that, I believe that's it. I mean, again, I think they're both fantastic toys of the time. Alright, so I think this is a good place to end this one, because after looking at both modes, looking at them side by side, they look like they should be buddies themselves. But, you know, I've already asked you to leave a comment as far as which one you think's the better toy. I I also want to invite you to subscribe to the Peach State Prime Transformers channel for more fun videos like this, whether it be toy reviews, discussions, just anything Transformers related that seems of interest. And then, of course, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like here on YouTube. If you're into other fun videos on YouTube, I do have my original channel simply called Peach State Prime, where you can find all sorts of fun stuff such as travel videos, tourist attractions, amusement parks, special events. Also on there are fun places to eat and shop. Just anything of interest can be found there. You can also find me on the web at peachstateprime.com, where right now it's mainly just some extended bio about me, but I am looking to add more content in the near future. Anyways, I want to thank you once again for watching this video. Hope you have a great day, and God bless.